So, good evening, everyone. I'm Vishal Salsekar, and today we are going to discuss the News Today articles for 23rd of August. Right. So, in this particular edition of News Today, there are total 5 main articles that we are going to discuss holistically. The first is regarding the ISRO's lunar module launch vehicle. Right. So, what is it? How it is going to pave the way for the significant development as far as India's journey towards the space and specifically towards the moon is concerned. Next is regarding the Supreme Court's direction on the stray dogs. So, on the 11th of August, already we had seen that there was a direction issued by the Supreme Court with respect to the NCR region in the context of the stray dogs. Now, there have been a 3 judges benches that have provided further refinement to that particular direction. Now we will see regarding that also. Next is regarding the Hyperloop mobility system. So when it comes to the urban governance, one such major issue is the traffic and the congestion, the time taken to travel, right? So in that particular context, this kind of scientific development, which is the Hyperloop system, how that particular development is going to help as far as the mobility is concerned. Next is regarding the Sundarbans Tiger Reserve. So there have been extension of the limits of the Sundarban Tiger Reserve is concerned, and that we are going to see that what are the bodies and the concerned authorities regarding this. Last in this is the flexible inflation targeting by RBI. So there have been an assessment report with respect to this, that whether this particular flexible inflation targeting is successful or what kind of things that we can expect in future, the positives and the negatives of the same. Then there are certain quick updates where in the places in news we are going to see regarding the Spain, and then there are certain also in news, etc., that we are going to discuss. Right. So the first news regarding today's discussion is the ISRO's heaviest rocket lunar module launch vehicle LMLV to be ready by 2035. Now, the ISRO has subsequently developed a series of launching vehicles. So, from the very beginning in the 1970s, ISRO started with the launch vehicles, and then subsequently there have been a lot of developments. And what kind of developments? With respect to the range and with respect to the payload capacity. Through the technological advancement, it has gone for the larger extent. So now, in the newest aspect, this is the lunar module launch vehicle that we had already discussed in one such article, that ISRO is planning by 2040 a manned mission to the moon, right? So in that particular context, this particular launch vehicle is going to be ready by 2035. Now, from the perspective of UPSC examination, this is important from the general studies paper 3, that the space technology and the exploration, which is an important topic, and apart from that, even the achievements of the Indians in the science and technology, and specifically in that particular thing, the space technology is concerned, that we have to see. Right. Now, see, with respect to this specific development, that what is the lunar module launching vehicle, LMLV, right? So basically, ISRO was previously working upon this NGLV technology, or NGLV launching vehicle, next generation launch vehicle. What was the purpose of this next generation launch vehicle? So we have already discussed regarding the Bharatiya Antariksh Station. So ISRO is planning to place all the components and the modules of the Bharatiya Antariksh Station by 2035. So we will be having a functional Antariksh or the space station in the space, and that will be, previously it was planned that this is the launch vehicle which is going to carry that particular space station related modules, right? So do not confuse regarding the space station with the Gaganyaan module, which is proposed in 2027. So in the Gaganyaan, there will be a crewed module which will be going to the space. It will be revolving around the Earth, and after that it will be bringing the crews back to Earth safely. Right. So in that context, it is not going to be permanent in the space, but this Bharatiya Antariksh Station will be a permanent body like the International Space Station. Now, in that context, NGLV, or the next generation launch vehicle, was previously proposed. But later on, after the talks regarding this LMLV, what ISRO has said, that now we are not anymore working upon this NGLV, and whatever we were planning to do with this particular next generation launch vehicle, this LMV3 or GSLV Mk3, is going to do that particular task, right? So right now ISRO is no more working upon this NGLV. Now what particular module ISRO is working upon? ISRO is working upon the Lunar Module Launch Vehicle. Right. Now, what is this Lunar Module Launch Vehicle? So, as the name suggests, this is going to take the crew to the moon or orbiting that particular moon. Right. So, by 2040, India is having this particular manned crew mission or the crew mission to the moon, right? And in that particular context, ISRO has mentioned that by 2035 this LMLV will be completed, right? Now the purpose is to ensure the lunar missions. Now not only for this missions which is planned for 2040, it is even for the subsequent missions later on that might be coming. For those also, this particular LMLV will be important thing. Now, with respect to the payload capacity, now as and when this generations of the launching vehicle has increased, the payload capacity as well as the range has increased. So with respect to the payload capacity means apne saath how much it can take, whether it can be crew, whether it can be different module, it can be the lander, rover or any other kind of observation equipments. It can carry roughly 80 tons to the low Earth orbit. So roughly to 200 kilometer to the range of 2000 kilometer, this can carry 80 tons of the payload. But when it comes to the moon, because the distance increases, and if the distance increases, obviously the payload capacity in terms of the weight is going to get reduced. So it is roughly 27 tons to the moon, right? Because in that case, the distance is long. Now, in the specific launch vehicle, there will be fuel that is required, right? And in different launch vehicle, different category of the fuel is needed. So in this case, there is the 3-stage fuel system. So there will be at the first 2 stages, the liquid propellant will be utilized, and at the 3rd stage, it will be the cryogenic propellant that will be there. So the cryogenic means at the very extremely low temperature, there will be fuel that is stored in this case. Now, when we are talking about the ISRO, and today, on 23rd of August, we are celebrating the Indian Space Day, because 2 years before this particular date, India had landed successfully on the moon, right? Through the lander and rover, the Chandrayaan-3 mission. So that's why this particular day is celebrated as the Space Day, right? Now, in this particular context, we should be also aware regarding what are the series of launch vehicles that the ISRO has launched. So in this particular series, the first is the sounding rocket. Now, what is the purpose of sounding rocket? They are just the observation rocket in order to observe that upar chal kya raha hai, like what kind of atmosphere is it, right? So in the external atmosphere, there were certain sounding rockets that were launched in order to assess the temperature kya hai, pressure kya hai, what are the conditionalities and all. So this is not going to launch some specific satellite, right? Now after that, the first generation of the launch vehicle were launched in the form of the Satellite Launch Vehicle 3, SLV-3. Right. So this SLV-3 was one of the earliest rocket or the launch vehicle that India has launched. Right. Then there was second generation, which was in the form of the Augmented Satellite Launch Vehicle, ASLV. Now, right now, we are not anymore utilizing these particular launch vehicles at that scale. But then after that, in the third generation, there was PSLV, which is the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, which is a very important, and it is considered as the workhorse of the ISRO, right? So majority of the satellites of ISRO are being launched by the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, and the kind of hit ratio of this particular launch vehicle is very, very great. Next is in this particular series is the Geosynchronous Satellite Launch Vehicle, GSLV, where the payload capacity has increased, right? The technology has increased, right? So the modified version or the specific version of this, that GSLV MK3 was converted into LMV3. So from this to this, the payload capacity has increased and the range has increased. Then there are certain other versions, for example, small satellite launch vehicles. So sometimes we have to launch even the small satellites, 100 kg, 200 kg. For that, obviously, we are not going to utilize the larger launch vehicle. So there is the small satellite launch vehicles also. So micro, nano, and some kind of other satellites that are being launched by the SSLV. Now, in this particular series, the latest addition is the human-related launch vehicle. Those launch vehicle which will be having the capacity to take human into the space. So this is a generic term. Now in this series, this LMLV, which is the Lunar Module Launch Vehicle, can be fitted in this particular category, right? Now, whatever ISRO is utilizing presently, let's discuss that in a bit more detail. So first is the PSLV, which is utilized for the sun synchronous polar orbit, means generally the low earth orbit ke context mein this particular launch vehicle is being utilized. Also for the geosynchronous transfer orbit, sometimes we have to send the satellite to the geostationary orbits, but generally we are not doing this directly. First we are transferring that particular satellite to the geosynchronous transfer orbit, and through that particular orbit it will be a elliptical or the larger elliptical orbit from which we are going to send the satellite to the geostationary orbits, right? So geosynchronous transfer orbit may be send karne ke liye PSLV is being utilized. If the satellite is more heavy, in that particular case GSLV is being utilized, for example for the communication satellite or sending the satellite directly to the your geostationary orbit. So it is now in the case of PSLV, it was a 4-stage rocket or 4-stage launching vehicle, which includes the solid, first stage solid, then second liquid, then third solid, then the fourth is again liquid. But in the case of GSLV, it is utilizing the 3-stage vehicle or the launch vehicle, right? First will be the solid one, second will be the liquid one, and the third is the cryogenic in this particular case. So I'm talking about the advanced version of this particular GSLV. Now in this GSLV only, uska jo most advanced version hai GSLV Mk3, that has been renamed as the LVM3, right? So carrying capacity has increased. So this is 4-ton satellite, right, to the geosynchronous transfer orbit. So the capacity you can see that has been doubled from 2 ton to 4 ton and roughly till 10 ton this is being utilized. Okay. Now next in this series is the SSLV. Now this is a specialized category of the launch vehicle which is for the mini, micro and the nano satellite, right? So this is regarding the satellite launch vehicles. Now you have to tell me in the comments that which particular different orbits are there, right? कितने तरीके के orbits होते हैं, right? So this is it regarding your satellite launch vehicles. Now with respect to this, already we have discussed regarding this question that it is also one such achievement of India with respect to the space technology. So discuss the India's achievement in the field of space science and technology, how the application of this technology has helped India in the socio-economic development. Now you see that if there will be some specific developments that will be observed by sending the crewed mission to the moon, so in that case obviously there will be some developments that and the knowledge that India is gathering, and that particular knowledge might be utilized for the socio-economic benefits, right? So in this case, you have to tell that which particular socio-economic developments are going to be done with respect to the development of the India's space technology sector, right? And specifically in this case, the indigenization of the space technology. Next article is the article again that we have already discussed a few days back, where the 2 judges bench has provided a directive with respect to the stray dogs, right? So the Supreme Court has issued the modified directions to control the menace of the stray dogs. Now from the perspective of the UPSC examination, GS paper 2, where the polity and governance is an important section, and in that particular section when we are talking about the urban governance in general, there is one such issue with respect to the urban governance, right? So managing the urban governance properly, the role of the municipalities, and apart from that the role of judiciary more predominantly, because here the judiciary has taken the suo motu cognizance and judiciary has provided some directions to the authorities. Now the role of judiciary in balancing the public safety vis-a-vis the animal rights, because animal rights is also very important, right? And from the perspective of GS3, the environment and the public health is an important section. So they are also, it can be related to public health. It will also come in the social justice GS paper 2, and also it can be related to the environment also. Now what actually had happened on the 11th of August, that the 2 judges bench provided a directive that whatever stray dogs are there in the Delhi NCR region, that should be taken up by the relevant authorities, should be placed in the shelter homes. If the shelter homes are not there, the directives were provided to create the shelter home immediately, and no dog in any specific condition should be sent back to the locality again. Now, right now, if you try to assume this scenario, that the number of stray dogs that are there, specifically in this region and entirely in the country, are we having this much capacity in order to keep those particular stray dogs? And if that particular thing may be aggravated, suppose if there are certain diseases that may be aggravated from that particular region, then in that particular case, what is going to happen? So all these things were taken into consideration by the court, and now the court has suggested one thing, that those particular dogs which are not posing any specific harm to the society, who are not aggressive, whose vaccination is done, sterilization is done, and in that particular case, even the deworming is done. So that dogs can be sent back again to the locality, their own respective locality. But those which are showing still the aggressive behavior, or there are any specific issues like the rabies या उसके symptoms available है, in that case we are not going to send back those particular stray dogs to their own locality. ठीक है? So this is the major change that have been observed. Now, what were the directives? Let's discuss one by one. First is prohibition on the public feeding. So you might have seen across the roads, there are many people who are feeding. Now, see, there is, with due respect, that there is nothing like harm in the feeding of the stray dogs. But what actually happens, that sometime if there is any particular person who is passing by that particular region, now that dog or the stray dog thinks that that person might be causing some harm or maybe stealing that particular food. You might have also observed, right? So in that case, there might be a chance that that dog might be acting aggressively against that particular individual, and dog bite related scenario can happen. So prohibition of public feeding has been said by the court and reaffirmed कि भाई this will be a criminal offense now. अगर आप इस तरीके की कोई एक्टिविटी में पाए गए तो you will be penalized with the whatever the jurmana will be. Next is the dedicated feeding spaces. So it is the responsibility now of the municipality to identify in different ward that what will be the feeding places where the stray dogs can be fed, and they can take help from the RWS, which are the local bodies, right? Within that particular ward, there will be multiple RWS. So with the RWS and the municipality, it has to be ensured that there should be dedicated feeding spaces, जहां पर सिर्फ खिलाना होगा, and with the concerned people or the dog lovers, this will be identified, but not at any place. If that particular thing is being reported by any person, in that case there may be some penal provisions against that. Next is the relocating after treatment. So previously on 11th of August it was mentioned that there will not be any relocation. Once there will be vaccination and all, there will not be the relocation. So now it is mentioned those dogs who are not showing any aggressive behavior, those who are fit, those who are not showing the symptoms of rabies, so in that case they can be relocated again back to their own locality. But it is going to exclude the dogs which are having rabies, suspected with rabies, or they are showing some aggressive behavior. Next is the national policy. So now the court has said this particular three judges bench जो बोला है उन्होंने that there will be a national policy. So right now at different states, because this issue of rabies, roughly India is constituting of across world में total 36% of the rabies cases as per the WHO data. So in that case across India there is a national policy that is needed, right? So this is not anymore limited to NCR region. This is for across country, because see, municipality is there or any specific urban and the rural governance bodies that are there across the India, right? So now there will be development of the national policy based upon these lines, right? Last in this is the adoption. So there are many people who are willing to adopt, so they can adopt, they can request the municipal authority, they can apply with them, and then they can adopt the street dogs or the stray dogs, right? So there is also the provision for the adoption of stray dogs. Now what are the issues with respect to the stray dogs? See, there is a major issue with respect to not because of the population, but the way population is being managed. So stray dog population is roughly 1.5 crore, and that particular is also from the 2019 ka census. So this data is not updated as of now, but yes, it would be if you consider that it might be 2 crore also, right? So this is the large number, but that becomes the concern when you see the number of the cases of the rabies. So India is responsible for the 36% of the world's rabies deaths when it comes to the rabies, right? So in that particular case, it is very dangerous thing that if we are not going to take any specific action, so the action should be also justified. So in that case, what Supreme Court has said right now in the 3-judge bench, so it is a welcoming step by the Supreme Court, because they are also understanding the limitation with respect to the different authorities that are right now there, right? So there is first regarding the death issue of the death because of the rabies. Next is regarding the dog bites and the scratches that are being caused by the dogs. So 99% of the human rabies cases are because of that only. So this is the magnitude that the cases are because of the dog bites or the dogs scratches. That's why it has to be taken into consideration. And generally, even the Supreme Court has highlighted that it is the children, the small individuals, and also the old age population that are very much vulnerable because of this. Right. So now again, see, we can think that what is your opinion about these things? Is it a progressive step? And when we compare it with the 11th August judgment, or there are certain suggestions? Because see, at the end of the day, you might also be observing these particular situations near you. So what are your opinion with respect to that? Do make sure to comment, right? Next is the legal and judicial steps. Now, this already has been covered, but let's again discuss regarding this. So there are certain constitutional and the legal powers and the mandate that is mentioned in the constitution itself. So there is Article 243W, which says that it is the responsibility of the municipal bodies with respect to the management of the stray dogs. So when it comes to the urban governance, obviously in order to manage the stray dogs also, it is the responsibility of the urban local government. Along with that, when the fundamental duties was conceptualized, that was added to the constitution, 51AG, that talked about the compassion towards the living creatures or the animal, that has also been incorporated. So India is a compassionate society. The compassion should be towards all the individuals, the living creatures, and even towards the environment, that we have to ensure this particular thing. Now, next is regarding the Animal Birth Control Rule of 2023. So this was under the Prevention of Cruelty Towards the Animal Act of 1960. In this particular animal birth control rules, there were a few things mentioned with respect to the stray dogs and the other animals, that there should be focus on the sterilization, because the major issues happens when there is unchecked population rise that might going to create the issue with respect to the entire ecosystem. Next is regarding the vaccination, because the vaccination will keep check on the disease or any specific issue that might be happening because of them. Now, there are certain court judgments also. So first was regarding the Jallikattu case of 2014, where the Supreme Court had observed that they also enjoy the right to life and liberty. So they have increased the scope of the right to life and liberty, which is part of the Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, and mentioned that these particular animals also have the right to life and liberty. Next is the People for Elimination of the Stray Trouble versus the Animal Welfare Board of India. This particular case, the court had suspended the killings of the street dogs and even the aggressive ones, because they have mentioned that this is not a humane thing to do, right? So in that particular thing, we should be doing and focusing more upon the things that the court has suggested. For example, sterilization, for example, vaccination. And for those who are the aggressive one, there should be some shelter homes, not the culling of those particular animals, right? So this is regarding the street dogs and the stray dogs wala scenario. Now, with respect to this, the questions can be there from the perspective of GS1, where in the GS1 section, there is a topic of urbanization. There also it is a relevant thing, the issues because of the urbanization. One such issue is this. Next, with respect to GS paper 2, the question may be there with respect to the roles and responsibilities of municipality. There also the question can come regarding this, the constitution related provisions in the way forward, what you are going to write. And apart from that, even GS paper 3, environment and ecology may be, this is an important topic, right? Next important article is regarding Maharashtra inks the deal with the Madras IIT Madras startup Tutor Hyperloop Private Limited. So this is basically a startup that is being developed in the IIT Madras with respect to the Hyperloop technology to build up the Hyperloop. Now see, if I talk to you about Hyperloop, we are going to discuss in detail. So it is with respect to the high speed mobility. Right. So when it is high speed mobility, apart from that, even it is an important development from the science and tech perspective. That's why from the GS paper 2, GS paper 3, because right now Maharashtra government is supporting this project, means the government and the state is supporting the project with respect to the mobility. So the state leadership in the futuristic infrastructure, apart from that, even GS paper 3, science and technology section, technological innovation, high speed rail transport, and apart from that, even the development development of the science and technology innovations, right? Indigenization, this is an important topic. Now, what is the Hyperloop mobility system? So as the name suggests, the Hyperloop mobility system is basically a high speed mobility system. Right now you might have seen already there are certain projects going on like the bullet train project, right? So hyperloop system mein the difference from the bullet train is like there will be a specific environment that will be there in order to ensure the passage of that particular pod or the module in which the people are sitting. Matlab, in the normal train or in the bullet train, there will be specific rails, but yes, that will be passing through the common environment. But in the Hyperloop, there will be a modified environment, which is the low pressure tubes. In this, the pressure will be reduced to such an extent like it will be near vacuum situation. Ab suppose karo, there is no vacuum. When there is no vacuum, there will be lesser air resistance or no air resistance. जब एयर रेजिस्टेंस ही नहीं है, डोंट यू थिंक सो इफ दैट पर्टिकुलर डिवाइस इज गोइंग टू गेट प्रोपेल्ड, दैट विल बी मूविंग वेरी वेरी fastly. So this is the specific hyperloop related thing, that how it is going to ensure the high speed. We are going to discuss the technicalities regarding this also. So this hyperloop mobility system is going to connect the JNPT, which is in Navi Mumbai, and the Vadhavan project, which is in the Palghar district of Maharashtra. Recently when we were discussing regarding the ports, we had discussed that the Vadhavan port is one of the newest port that the newest major port that is being developed in India, right? So this is the Vadhavan port. Abhi tak functional nahi hua hai. This is in the developmental stage, but this is the 13th major port of India. Now, when we talk about the Hyperloop, the conceptualization was done in 2013 when Elon Musk, who is the famous personality and these days became very famous because of the US elections and all. So 2013 mein he had conceptualized this particular aspect of the ultra high speed rail. राइट, सो द बुलेट ट्रेन उसके बहुत पहले से चल रही है, बट अल्ट्रा हाई स्पीड रेल कॉन्सेप्ट ही हैज कॉन्सेप्चुअलाइज्ड एंड फ्रॉम देयर द कॉन्सेप्ट केम इन द पिक्चर व्हिच इज रिगार्डिंग द हाइपर लूप. Right. Now the Hyperloop is utilizing certain technologies which are already function, like the magnetic leviation. Means there will be a magnetic field which is utilized in order to propel that particular device जो भी उसके ऊपर है. For example, right now for the bullet trains also, to some extent this magnetic leviation is being utilized, and then for this Hyperloop also this is being utilized. Now when we talk about the Hyperloop project, there are certain components. So there is magnetic leviation as a technology or the system that is ensuring the movement of the train. Then there will be pods. So pod is nothing but up common parlance में you can assume like the train जो कि move होगी, in which there will be passengers. So that is the pod which will be moving with the ultra high speed. Now in which environment? In the low pressure tube. There will be steel tubes which are having very very low pressure inside them, so that the air resistance is reduced and that pod will be moving at a high speed. Now how that functioning will be there? So see, there will be sealed tube. Now this sealed tube will ensure that there is no such air and subsequent air resistance, right? So the vacuum tubes and the magnetic leviation technology is being utilized. Now there will be linear induction motor. So that particular linear induction motor will ensure the speed of that particular pod. So us pod mein you will see that there will be the linear induction motor that will be sitting over here, and that will ensure the forward movement of this particular device. Next is the steel tubes, the tube in which this particular pod is moving. So the Hyperloop का जो overall tube है, that is the steel tube. There will be pressurized capsule. So pressurized capsule is talked about this particular pod जिसके अंदर individuals are sitting and they are moving, right, in that particular pod. Now why it is mentioned as pressurized capsule? Because in the inner environment there is very less or the near zero pressure. So in that particular case अंदर का तो pressure आपको maintain करना पड़ेगा. So otherwise how people are going to survive, right? So there will be pressurized capsules. A compressor for the airflow. So suppose करो if this is moving forward, there might be a chance कि कुछ amount of air आ जाता है, तो there will be a front side में there will be a compressor which will be sucking up the air, so that it is not going to create the disturbance to the entire system and not doing the speed of that particular loop slow. So this compressor will ensure that the air is getting sucked. Last in this is the air bearing suspension. So this particular air bearing suspension is going to ensure that there is minimal or no friction at the bottom also, and this pod is moving free of the friction, right? So in this particular scenario, you can observe that this is the tube module where this hyperloop tube will be there, like the steel tube. There will be a pod, there will be this magnetic leviation technology, and apart from that, the entire structure. See, UPSC is not going to generally ask about that how to make the hyperloop, and it is in the developmental stage. Even still, this has not been developed at any place. कहीं पर भी नहीं operational है. So the point is, you have to have an understanding with respect to what kind of benefit it is going to offer. Now, when it comes to the advantage, it is ultra high speed, so it is going to reduce the travel cost. So Mumbai to Pune, 25 minutes. This is going to significantly reduce the time of travel, roughly 1000 km/h. Then energy efficiency, because the way it is going to move, it is going to reduce the energy utilization, and that too is you going to utilize comparatively the non-fossil fuel based energies, right? So that is also there. Noise reduction, because the complete thing will be compartmentalized. Ab aisa to nahi hoga, this is moving on the surface. So basically there will be a specific compartment or region jahan pe ye flow hogi, and that particular thing obviously will not be there in the open thing. So there will be reduction of noise also. Lastly, in this is the logistics redefinition. So there will be quick and the efficient logistics utilization that will be there, and that has to be ensured in order to reduce and minimize the resistance. And noise isliye bhi kam hoga because the resistance is very, very minimal. But what are the issues? Right now, we do not have any specific place where it is functional, right? Apart from that, even the conceptualization, abhi tak sirf conceptualization hai, there is no such finalization that is done. The cost is very, very high. And even one such issue will be there. This is the major issue, that you will need the straight line infrastructure, because if anything has to move this, so you have to move in the straight line. So for that, for the entire length, you will need the straight line infrastructure. Now, in order to make this in India, it is very, very difficult. Apart from that, the safety concerns, what will happen if there will be fire in the pod? What will happen if that will become unfunctional or non-functional at any point of time? Who is going to clear that particular issue? Now, why it is difficult? Because when there is no such air or the pressure availability, it is very, very difficult in order to go by manually by the human. Even the cleaning and the other aspects are going to be very, very difficult in this particular case. So the vacuum maintenance is also going to create certain amount of challenge in this case, right? So these are the things. Now, what is the way ahead? Obviously, when the state is in the need of certain kind of technological solution, it is the responsibility of the state also in order to provide substantial amount of backing with respect to the technological things or other kind of support. So the private companies and the government should provide the substantial backing, because it is going to reform completely the entire transportation infrastructure. Continuous research and development is another major important thing. The infrastructure for this particular thing has to be created. So there should be first small scale creation of the infrastructure, and then the replication, if it is efficient, that should be done at the large scale. Last is the need for the regulation for the standards and the safety. Because see, once that particular pod is moving, in that particular situation, if it is moving at the 1000 or the 1200 km/h, the safety and security is very, very important. And for the country like India, where you have to take care of the large amount of population, you can assume that बहुत छोटे-छोटे pod से काम नहीं चलेगा. You will need to increase that particular pod का length, or even you have to ensure the safety standards. Because abhi, if you see the bullet train project, it is many years that this particular project is still not started, right? So in that case, there have to be a proper guideline, proper regulation, safety standards in order to ensure the functional Hyperloop project. And here not only IIT Madras, even IIT Bombay has to be mentioned, because IIT Bombay bhi support kar raha hai through the technology wise with respect to this project, right? Next article is the Sundarbans Tiger Reserve STR has now become the India's second largest tiger reserves as far as the area is concerned. So this particular topic, I would say, is more important comparatively for the prelims examination, but even the mains related question can be there. So the syllabus wise GS paper 3, environment, ecology, disaster management, it is a very important topic, right? Now, there is a body that is mentioned with respect to this article. There is a standing committee of the National Board of Wildlife, which has given the in principle approval to the increasing or the expansion of the area of the Sundarban Tiger Reserve, which was demanded by the state government of the West Bengal. So, in that particular case, this body becomes very, very important. The National Board of Wildlife. Previously, also, once we had discussed about this body. What is this particular body? This is a statutory body that was formed in 2003 by an amendment to the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. So, this amendment was done in 2002, and then this particular body, which is the National Board for Wildlife, that was created in 2003. Now, UPSC can ask the question regarding this because, see, there appears to be a confusion. In the National Board for Wildlife, there is the chairperson, Prime Minister. Vice chairperson, Union Minister for the Environment, Forest and Climate Change. But when it comes to the standing committee of the National Board of Wildlife, the chairperson is the head is the Union Minister of the Environment, Forest and Climate Change. So this can confuse you. So make sure what is exactly mentioned in the question, accordingly you have to answer. Now this standing committee, so this is a committee that is created in the National Board for Wildlife by the National Board for Wildlife and delegated certain functions of National Board of Wildlife to this standing committee, right? So this is the committee for the purpose of exercising the power and performing the duties which is delegated by the committee, which is the National Board for Wildlife. Now the chairperson is the Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, right? Now, when we are mentioning that the Sundarbans has become the second largest tiger reserve, so then which is the largest one? So it is in the Andhra Pradesh. The Nagarjuna Sagar Sri Sailam Tiger Reserve is the largest tiger reserve as far as India is concerned. Now, another thing I want to ask you, that recently there has been the 58th tiger reserve that has been designated in India. Do comment that which particular tiger reserve and in which particular state that particular tiger reserve has been created, right? Now, when we are talking about tiger reserve, there are some procedure associated with the designation of any specific region within maybe national park or any other place, tiger reserve, right? So the tiger reserves are being notified by the state government, right? So it is the state government which is designating or notifying the tiger reserve. Now the tiger reserve ko notify karne ka procedure is mentioned in the section 38V of the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. In that, this will be done on the advice of the National Tiger Conservation Authority, NTCA. Now, this NTCA was also created under the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. Now, tell me, is this a statutory authority? The answer is yes. This is a statutory authority in order to govern the application of the Project Tiger. The Project Tiger was started in 1973, and under that particular Project Tiger, the areas are designated as the tiger reserves, right? Now, what are the steps in order to notify any specific region as the tiger reserve? First, there will be proposal by the state. For example, suppose if I am the state government, I'll ask the central government ki bhai designate this particular region because there is substantial amount of tiger population. That's why I want this region should be designated as the tiger reserve. Now, once I will be asking, they will be asking the concerned authority, which in this particular case is the NTCA, National Tiger Conservation Authority, right? So NTCA ko bolenge ki bhai check karo. So that proposal will go to NTCA. NTCA will ask me ki bhai give me more document, give me some substantive aspect ki why this area should be designated as the tiger reserve. I'll provide the detailed report that this is the tiger population in last few years, this much has been increased. This is important in order to designate this particular region as tiger reserve because this is going to help the development of this region, right? And then accordingly, if the NTCA is satisfied, that NTCA will be giving the approval for designating that region as the tiger reserve. And then state government is going to notify that region after the approval of NTCA as the tiger reserve. Who is notifying? The state government. Now, once that is notified, obviously there may be some amendment or alteration that can also be done. So there is a process associated with the alteration also. So in the section 38W1 of the Wildlife Protection Act, it is mentioned that there can be alteration. Now alteration kaise hoga? There will be state government. Again, in my state, if there is any tiger reserve, I want to increase the area. Again, I'll have to ask the authority कि भाई increase the area. In this case, West Bengal has asked, right? Now that particular will go to the NTCA. Now, if NTCA approves that yes, by increasing the area there will be benefit, so the NTCA will approve, and then after that it will go to the approval at the National Board for Wildlife. So now the National Board for Wildlife ka standing committee had approved the increase of the area of the Sundarban Tiger Reserve region. So the approval has been done, right? Now Sundarban Tiger Reserve, now you know that this is a deltaic region jahan par there is the mangrove forest. So this is entire forest which is in the form of delta. A lot of mangroves are available, and this is the largest mangrove jahan par there are substantial population of tiger. So India is one such place, and Sundarban Tiger Reserve is one such unique hotspot in form of the mangroves where the substantial population of tiger is there. Obviously in the Bangladesh, which is adjacent to that particular region, there also the substantial population of tiger in this region is available, right? Now the region is the coastal district of West Bengal. Now when we talk about the border, if you try to locate the India's map, try to see the region of Sundarbans where the mangroves are located. Now in the east, the border is being done by Bangladesh. There are certain rivers like the Harinbhanga is there, then Raimangal is there, then Kalindi is there. In the south, obviously there is Bay of Bengal, okay? The complete the sea wala region. So the Bay of Bengal is there. West mein there is River Malta. So in the west, on the landward side, there is River Malta, and the northwest side mein there are rivers like the Bidya River and the Gomdi River that are there. I would say not that important, but yes, just have a reference to this so that when you are doing the mapping, if you are able to locate these rivers, that will be good for you, right? Because question can be asked regarding this. Now, apart from this, this region is also the Natural World Heritage Site designated by UNESCO, and also the part of the Sundarbans Biosphere Reserve, right? So one of the biosphere reserves of India. Now, next article, or I would say last article with respect to the main news, is regarding the RBI's paper, which is saying that the flexible inflation targeting FIT framework has served India well amid the global challenges. Now, what are the global challenges that the world has seen? These challenges are continuing even till today. The pandemic, COVID-19 has roughly ended, but still we are seeing the issues like new diseases that are emerging, and that might be having the potential in order to turn into the pandemic situation, and that disrupt the economic structure, supply chains, right? Apart from that, the Russia-Ukraine crisis started during the 2022, and that is continuing till this particular day. West Asia mein crisis chal hi raha hai, and all these things are disrupting supply chain. When the supply chain is getting disrupted, don't you think so the prices of goods and services are not going to get increased? Oil supply nahi ho raha hai, the oil prices might shoot up. If the supply of the agricultural commodities get hindered, the agricultural commodities ke price might increase. So this global volatility may increase the inflation or the inflationary pressure. So in this case, RBI is saying that despite these global challenges, this kind of flexible inflation targeting that had helped India. Now, from the perspective of UPSC examination, GS paper 3 mein, there is a topic of there is a subject of economy, monetary policy framework in India. This is an important topic. Even the topic of inflation and the RBI as an authority is very, very important, right? Now, what is the overview with respect to the India's flexible inflation targeting experience? Now, see, in 2013, there was a committee formed under the leadership of then Deputy Governor of RBI, Urjit Patel. So under the leadership of Urjit Patel, there was a committee that was formed in order to ensure a robust monetary policy. So that particular committee recommended the monetary policy related changes, and this particular committee also recommended that there should be inflation targeting. So the committee recommended that there should be a benchmark rate like 4%, and then there should be a window plus minus 2%. So the inflation can range from 2%, like 4 minus 2 is 2, and 4 plus 2 is 6. So the inflation can range from 2% to 6%. So 4 plus minus 2%. This was talked about in the Urjit Patel committee recommendation. Now this was in 2013. After that, in 2016, the government of India through an amendment to the RBI Act provided the power to RBI for the inflation targeting. So in the RBI Act of 1934, the amendment was done and the flexible inflation targeting was ensured. Now, what was the objective in order to ensure the flexible inflation targeting? To ensure the price stability. देखो, one such thing is, you might be thinking कि inflation कम होना चाहिए, है ना, लगता है ना इन्फ्लेशन कम होना चाहिए, बट व्हेन द इन्फ्लेशन इज लेस, the economic activity in an economy is also reduces. When there is flow of money, आप देखते हो, when the flow of money is increased in the economy, inflationary pressure increases. Now the government is in dilemma. If we are going to reduce the inflation a lot, the economic activities also get stalled and ultimately it is going to impact the employment. तो unemployment increase होगा अगर inflation बहुत कम हो जाएगा तो. Otherwise, if the inflation is increases too much, then there will be impact on the larger scale of population. That's why it is very, very difficult. Hence, we have to find out an optimal level. So the committee recommended for 4 plus minus 2%. It was taken as a benchmark in 2016. Now, observation क्या है report का? The observation is 2016 to 19, this system functions well. The RBI was able to maintain the inflation within this particular range of 4 plus minus 2%, and average was roughly 4%, which is the ideal and the optimum number. Now, 20s में, once the COVID-19 started and eventually there were subsequent issues that emerged, at that point of time, food and fuel inflation ज़्यादा बढ़ा. Right now, which particular indicator of the inflation the RBI is using for targeting? They are using the headline inflation. Now, just one fact with respect to headline inflation, that it also includes the food and fuel prices. Now, when it is including food and fuel, now these are very, very volatile. कल ईरान अगर इसराइल अगर ईरान पे अटैक कर दे, हो सकता है if Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz, there will be reduction of supply, oil prices might shoot up. If there is any attack on the country which is the major supplier of grain, and in that case the country is not able to supply grain anymore, in that case the food prices are going to increase. So these are very, very volatile. और monetary policy changes का भी बहुत ज्यादा असर नहीं होता है उन पे. So in that case, this particular breach has been observed because of the food and fuel shocks, because of the pandemic, Russia-Ukraine conflict, and many other simultaneous issues. After that, 2022 onwards, again there was some correction has been observed. There was targeted supply side intervention. Matlab, if there is constraint on one side, for example, suppose karo, if there have been constraint of the oil from West Asia, we are taking more oil from Russia, means supply side ke constraints ko hataya gaya, and there were alternate exporters were identified. Anti-inflationary monetary policy means if there is increase of the inflation that is going on in the economy, then the rates were increased. जब rates increase कर दिए जाएंगे by RBI, the loans will be costly. People are not going to take much loan, and the money supply in the market is going to get reduced. अगर मनी सप्लाई मार्केट में कम हो जाएगा, ऑब्वियसली इन्फ्लेशन इज गोइंग टू गेट डाउन. बट यस, इट इज नॉट दैट सिंपल. इट इज कॉम्प्लिकेटेड एंड based upon a lot of factor. But yes, anti-inflationary monetary policy was also adopted, and also the falling of the international commodity prices, because agar kuch countries nahi supply kar pa rahe, other countries are trying to fill up that particular gap, and that's how the falling of the international commodity prices was observed. So these were the corrections through which the inflation was brought down. Now, what are the key debates with respect to this particular paper? Now, there are 4 pointers mentioned in this paper. First is the targeting benchmark, whether we should target the headline inflation or not, or the core inflation. Now, the favor में ये बोला जा रहा है कि भाई देखो, since the food and fuel are majority in this particular basket or the consumption basket, that's why we should be taking that. तो actual पता चलेगा ना कि actual economy में क्या है. Otherwise you are excluding that. In the core inflation you are not including the food and fuel, right? But in the against they are saying that these are very, very volatile. आज प्राइस बढ़ जाएगा, कल प्राइस घट जाएगा. Even monetary policy change भी a lot impact cannot be put by the monetary policy rate change on the food and fuel, because होता क्या है, these are very much essential. Even if the prices are increasing, people have to purchase these, right? Next is regarding the optimality of the 4% range. Now, why 4% range seems optimal? Because if there will be reduction of the inflation beyond this, so there will be lack of economic activity, और फिर economy comparatively कम होगा, right? So lowering it may not be the credible as the global food inflation risk. अगर बढ़ा दिया जाएगा, मतलब range, if it has been increased, if the range is going to be increased, मतलब see, if there will be comparatively like 4% से मान लीजिए 8% कर दिया जाए, in that particular case, don't you think so it will be appeared that it is a because of the political reason the government was not able to meet this particular 4% target, that's why they are putting it 8. On the other side, if they are lowering by 2%, in that case जब ऐसे issues आते, for example Russia Ukraine crisis or West Asia में issue, in that particular cases there is a need for some buffer, right? So that's why 4% seems optimal. But then lower inflationary, अगर मान लीजिए कम कर दिया जाए, मान लीजिए if you reduce it to 2%, that means government will try to reduce it to 2%. Government means authorities like RBI. In that case, in the longer run, there that will be impacting the economic activity in the market. So the growth prospects are going to get reduced. Next is regarding the appropriateness of the tolerance band, means plus minus 2%. This gives the range of 2% to 6%. So that helps flexibility in order to absorb the shock. If in some cases, suppose karo, because of food and fuel, it has increased from 4 to 4.5. Next cycle में 4.5 to 5. This is giving some range. If you are fixing it, that means it will be rigid and this will be going to create difficulty. Otherwise, government को बहुत ज़्यादा efforts डालना पड़ेगा and they have to ensure a lot of abrupt decisions in order to maintain that. So India's food share and in the consumption basket further supports कि एक range होना चाहिए because food and fuel are roughly 50% as of now in this inflation. Now, अगर रेंज रहता है तो वॉलेटिलिटी ऑफ द हेडलाइन इन्फ्लेशन हैज डिक्लाइंड सिंस द योर FIT adoption, and also they have mentioned कि भाई there is are chances that the revised CPI series might come जहां पर reduction will be there in the food and fuel का weightage, and that will ensure that this will not be a major issue in order to take care of. So the revised CPI series will be potentially lowering the food share and could reduce the headline inflation volatility. मतलब even if you will reduce this tolerance band, then also it will work. Last is inflation targeting. So 2 to 6%. So it is mentioning again, like above, the flexibility and acknowledging the certain uncertainty. But on the negative side, it is mentioning that if we are going to have some range in that particular case, there is an ambiguity sometimes, there are sometimes policy credibility ka issue because there may be a lot of fluctuation. So point से range target, point target means 4 मतलब 4, range means 4 plus minus 2, that means it is giving us a range to maneuver from 2% to 6%. So these are certain observation. I would again say that identify the concept, do not worry about each and every minute detail in this. Identify the concept, identify the trend with respect to this. Now, how UPSC asked the question regarding this: what are the causes of the persistent high food inflation in India? Comment on the effectiveness of the monetary policy of RBI to control this type of inflation. So persistent high food inflation in India, internal factor, external factor. Comment on the effectiveness of the monetary policy, how RBI increases rate or decreases rate to control this type of inflation, right? So you have to answer these kind of questions. That's why data is not that important. Trends are comparatively more important. Now, having discussed the main news, next is the places in news, which is regarding the Spain. The capital city is the Madrid, right? So there have been the massive wildfire in the Spain. That's why we are discussing about the Spain. Now you can see the map of Spain. With respect to the features, if we talk about, अगर political features देखें, so on the western side there is Portugal, or Portugal के beyond there is the Atlantic Ocean. On the northern side you can see there is France and there is Andorra. Right. Apart from that, on the eastern side, if you see, there is basically Mediterranean Sea on the eastern side, and on the southern side, you will see the Strait of Gibraltar. And in that also, there are territory of UK, even the territory of Spain, and the country Morocco that is situated, and that Morocco is in Africa, right? So this is the political thing. When you talk about the marine things, so for example, here in the Spain, this particular region is Spain, right? So here it is Atlantic Ocean, here is Bay of Biscay, and here in the eastern side, it is the Mediterranean Sea. So this is the geography of the Spain. Apart from that, and regarding the boundaries, right? Apart from that, there are certain important feature, the climatic feature are concerned. So there is maritime climate. It is also having the continental climate because of the availability of the large mountains and the plateau region, and also having the Mediterranean kind of climate because of the proximity to the Mediterranean region. Now, if you have read these particular climate types in the geography, then you will be completely aware regarding what kind of climatic conditions that are there in Spain. Now, this is extremely mountainous, and in the middle part there is the plateau region. Now, the mountains may be Sistema Central is there, and apart from that, the Montes de Toledo is there. So these are the mountain. Not, I would say, not that important, but yes, if you are seeing it for the first time, just have an idea about this. That's it. Now, this particular region is known by some name. You have to comment that name before I'll reveal this. So this region is the Iberian Peninsula, and this is a very important region from the India's history is concerned, because Portugal was the first colonial power in the modern time to arrive India. 1498, Vasco da Gama. Right. So from the Portugal, and these two were the main power, Portugal and the Spain, which had divided the world by one such line or the imaginary line. You have to also talk about which was that treaty and what was that particular line. Right. So this is regarding the Spain. Now there are certain also in news, quick updates, right? In this, first is regarding Article 311. So what is the context that Jammu and Kashmir governor has recently fired 2 employees for the alleged terror link. Now UPSC had asked a question previous years mein regarding the overground workers, where there are maybe civil servant, maybe certain other government officials, maybe the shopkeepers, maybe the NGOs who are working for the terrorist network, but then they are appearing that yes, they are the common people, right? So there are alleged linkages with the terror network. So regarding that, the Article 311 is important. Why? Because Article 311 is a special article, talks about the power for the dismissal, removal, or the reduction of the rank of the person of civil services, मतलब सिविल कैपेसिटी जो गवर्नमेंट ऑफिशियल्स एंड द सिविल कैपेसिटी अंडर द यूनियन और स्टेट. Right. Now, in that case, the Article 311 talks about that the person who is functioning in the civil capacity cannot be removed by the authority below the authority who has appointed. मतलब if governor has appointed, the governor ही remove कर सकता है या उसके above का. It's not like a district collector can remove. So this is the 3111. 3112 says that no civil servant can be dismissed, removed, or demoted without inquiry, prior notice of changes, and the fair chances to be heard. But there is an exception provided in this particular article 3112C, where it is mentioned if the circumstances are not suitable and if the things are very, very clear, the exceptions can be made and they can be removed directly even without these kind of inquiries, right? So 311 is related to the removal of the persons in the civil capacity. Next is regarding the Asia Pacific Institute for Broadcasting Development, AIBD. So the context is that India has become or elected as the chairperson of the executive board of AIBD, which is the Asia Pacific Institute for the Broadcasting and Development. As the name suggests, this particular body is concerned with the broadcasting and development, right? So in the context of India, it is the Prasar Bharati of India, which is the member of this particular organization, which is the public service broadcaster of India. And the concerned ministry is the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. Right. Now, this body, which is the Asia Pacific Institute of Broadcasting and Development, it was found in 1977 under the aegis of यूनेस्को. सो यूनेस्को के अंदर बनाया गया था इसे. इट इज अ रीजनल इंटरगवर्नमेंटल. रीजनल क्यों? कंसर्निंग विद द एशिया पैसिफिक. इंटरगवर्नमेंटल बिकॉज द गवर्नमेंट्स एंड देयर एजेंसीज आर कोऑपरेटिंग. वेयर इज द सेक्रेटेरिएट? इट इज इन द कुआलालंपुर KL, right? Malaysia. Now, what is the mandate? To ensure the vibrant and the cohesive electronic media environment. So, vibrant and cohesive in order to develop certain kind of standardized procedure with respect to the electronic media, right? Next is regarding the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, IPC. So it is Integrated Food Security Phase Classification. So recently this IPC has confirmed that there has been a severe famine in the Gaza. Now, in very simple term, this is a inter-agency, matlab this is a coordination by different agencies which are coming together and identifying that at any specific place whether there is a severe food shortage or famine, and this is then ranking the country based upon that. So this particular integrated food security phase classification is basically a standardized international tool which measures and communicate regarding the severity of the food security in the country, whether it is Yemen, whether it is any other country jahan par there are major issues that had happened that led to the food security ka issue. There, this particular body has recommended that at which particular stage this food security issue is. Now, this was developed in 2004 and it is an innovative 21 partner initiative. There are multiple international organizations which are part of this. So, UN agencies and other than that, NGOs are also part of this. There are two committees, I would say not that important. There is one IPC high level executive committee. This is the APEX committee of the integrated food security phase classification, and second is the governing body which is the global steering committee. Right now they have mentioned that more than 500,000 population in Gaza are trapped in the famine marked by the widespread starvation, destitution, and also the preventable death. If would have provided with the adequate food or food security, the deaths could have been prevented. So this is basically standardizing or providing the standardized tool for the food security related things. So this is regarding the IPC. Next is the Great Nicobar Infrastructure Project. So as the name suggests, this is the infrastructure project for the Great Nicobar, the southern part of the Andaman and Nicobar's island. So the Tribal Council ne bola hai, Tribal Council said that the forest rights of the tribal people were not settled. Means their land were taken, they were not provided with the adequate compensation or the rehabilitation measures. So this is a mega project that is concerned with the southern end of the Andaman and Nicobar, right? Great Nicobar Island. What kind of projects? The transshipment ports, international airport, townships, and gas and the solar-based power plant. Means in order to ensure the habitation in that particular region, development of tourism, development of different kind of infrastructure. Right. Implementing agency kya hai? Andaman and Nicobar Island Integrated Development Corporation. ANIDCO, right? This is the implementing agency. Now, concerns kya hai? See, this particular island itself is vulnerable to a lot of issues. Maybe the natural disasters, there are earthquake prone regions, there are issues like tsunami that are observed, right? Apart from that, even the tribes some tribes which are on the verge of extincting, right? For example, Sentinelese are there, and even other than that, there are Shompenes are there, Nicobaris are there. Sentinelese not necessarily in this region, but I'm talking from the perspective of the greater Andaman and Nicobar region, right? That's why even if the development are there, development should be taking into consideration the concerns of local, right? Next is regarding the Druzhba pipeline. Simply, this particular news is regarding that recently there was an attack from the side of Ukraine that had impacted the Russian oil flow to Hungary and Slovakia. Why? Because the attack was on the Druzhba pipeline. So this was one of the biggest crude oil pipeline that is in the world. Length not important. Why it is there? Because see, Russia se jata tha Belarus and Ukraine ke through in the countries like Slovakia and Hungary. And this particular pipeline got interrupted by the Ukraine's attack, and that's how Russia has suspended the oil supply, right? Next is regarding the Drake Passage. So Drake Passage is basically the region in the ocean, which is a region between the southern part of South America, which is like, if you observe this, so this is the southern part of South America, and this is the northern part, we can say, of Antarctica. So this is the passage between that. So it is not a strait, but a large passage that is there between two continents, we can say. These are the islands that you are observing. These are the Shetland Islands of the Antarctica, and this particular region that you can observe, this is the southern part of the South America, which is the Cape Horn, right? So the Drake Passage is between these two. Now, there is also the oceanic currents that are flowing in this particular region, passing through the Drake Passage, which are the Antarctic circumpolar currents. So these are the currents flowing from the west to east direction in this particular manner, right? Now, the key passage for the trade before the Panama Canal. So Panama Canal right now, this is not visible here. So there is the region of Central America, which is connecting the North America and South America. There is no such natural linkage between the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean. But then there was an artificial waterway that was created in the name of Panama Canal, right? Now, before Panama Canal, the transport was done by this particular region, right? Stormy seas and the icy conditions are there. Next is regarding advanced medium combat aircraft. So this is the 5th generation aircraft that India is trying to build, right? So India will jointly manufacture this advanced jet engines for the 5th generation fighter aircraft, AMCA, advanced medium combat aircraft, and with the France ki company Safran, right? So AMCA is the 5th generation aircraft, medium weight stealth fighter, which is being developed by the technology is being developed by DRDO. एक प्रोटोटाइप बनाया जाएगा by 28-29, like how it will look, what will be the features, and then ultimately 2034-35 tak we are planning to get it inducted into the Air Force. Now what are the features? It will be stealth, it will be difficult to detect, it will be quick to maneuver, right? Twin engine powered super cruise fighter jet, advanced AI enabled avionics होगा, long range target detection via AESA radar, ठीक है? Advanced surveillance radars रहेंगे, right? Last in this is regarding the Rampage missile. So recently we had seen in the Operation Sindoor, India का जो the air defense mechanism था, that proved to be robust, right? But we have to further strengthen because the enemy is also aware regarding the kind of capability that we are having. So India is further trying to more acquire this particular Israeli origin Rampage missile. So these are the long range air to ground precision attack missile, right? So in the context of Operation Sindoor, you might have already seen a lot of missiles, right? And in this series, the new is the Rampage missile. It can travel at the supersonic speed, making it difficult to detect, and developed by the Israel aerospace industry. So Rampage missiles recently was in news in the context of IAF's acquisition of it from the Israel, right? So this is it regarding the news today of 23rd of August, right? So we have discussed this particular news holistically, and by this time, this particular question related to these news are already on your screen. So try to attempt these questions. Whatever questions I have asked in this particular series of discussion, do try to comment those in the comment section, and this will ensure the co-learning and ensuring that where you are standing with respect to the current affairs preparation. Okay? And also go to the Digital Current Affairs website for the further updates with respect to the news today. Okay? Chalo, I hope the things are clear to you. Thank you very much. Have a great day.